Hello, hello. We are back with Chapter 9, Measurement and Geometry, looking into Lesson 3, Area of Irregular Figures. And this is the guided practice. So we already went over some problems. I want you to go ahead and try to figure out 1 and 2 on your own. We are estimating the area of each figure. Each square represents 1 square foot. So go ahead and pause your device, work out problems 1 and 2. When you get done, press play and we'll talk about it. All right, see you in a bit. All right, we are back. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to divide this particular figure into 3 different sections. The first being the section with the full squares. So that would be here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11 full squares. And then there's 2 other sections. This section here, which this is pretty much a full square, and that's a half. So we're going to call that section right there 1 1/2. And then the other section on the other side, this is pretty much a full square, so we'll call that 1, and then this is a half. So we'll call this 1 1/2 as well. So we're just going to go ahead and add up all those values. So we have 11 plus 1 1/2 plus 1 1/2 equals, so the half and the half, that's just going to equal 1. So 11 plus 1 is going to be 12, plus another one's 13, plus another one would be 14. So we're going to call it 14 units squared. So whenever you talk about the grid and there's just these squares, you call it you label it as units squared. Or sometimes you'll see it as 14 square units. The same thing, mean the same thing. Just writing it all the way out. Okay, so if you got that one right, wonderful job. Okay, let's go on to problem 2. So the first thing we're going to do with problem 2 is count up the squares that have full squares, okay? So here this looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and that's a partial square. Okay, perfect. So that's 20 full squares. Let's count off the partial squares. Now over here on this left side, these are pretty much a half, right? So that's, we'll do all of these first. So this half and that's going to be 1, and then this is going to be a half and a half, which is going to be 1. So we're going to have 1 here and 1 here. Okay, so really all of that equals 2, but I'm putting it as 1 and 1. Okay. Okay, let's look at this one. For this section here, this is pretty much a whole one right here, and this is a half. So I'm going to call this one right here 1 1/2. I'm just going to say that this one right here at the end, this is just pretty much a whole one. So this one, I'm just going to put a 1, that's a whole, okay? And then lastly, we have this, which is pretty close to a whole, and this, which is pretty close to a half. So we'll call that 1 1/2, okay? Now we're just going to add them all up. So we have 20 whole ones here. So it's going to be 20 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 1/2 plus 1 1/2 plus 1. Okay? So the half and the half, you know that's going to be 1. And so we can just count. So 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So it's going to equal 26 units squared, or we could say 26 square units as an approximation. So if you got that one right, great job. Okay, let's go on to problem 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to do 3 first. So we're going to find the area of each figure, use 3.14 for pi if you have to use pi. Okay, so on this first figure, what I see that I can divide this up, and I think I'm going to, there's a variety of ways you can divide it up, but I think I'm going to divide it like, I guess I'll just divide it like, oh, it's so hard to decide. I'll divide it like this right here. Right here, yeah, right here. Or like here. You can do it either way. Joy, just make up your mind. Okay, we'll go this way. Okay, right here. Okay, so that means we're going to have 2 rectangles. Here's a rectangle, and here's another rectangle. So for this first rectangle, we're going to write the formula. We're going to say area equals length times width. Our length is going to be 5, and our width is going to be 4. We're going to substitute the values in. So we have area equals 5 times 4, and 5 times 4 equals 20, and we're dealing with feet, so it's going to be 20 feet squared. Okay, so that is the area of this figure right here. It's going to be 20 feet squared. Everything inside here. Okay. Okay, but we don't have this value here, so we need to determine what that is. Okay, it's pretty obvious. This is also a rectangle. Okay, so we're going to be doing area equals length times width again. So this, we know that this is 1, but we need to determine what this value is. Well, we know that from here to here is 5, right? And we know from here to here is 3. So if we go 5, take away 3, that's going to tell us what this is. So 5 take away 3 is 2, which means from here to here is 2 feet. So that's going to be our length, all right? So our length is going to equal 2. And then our width is going to be right here, which is equal to 1. And we're just going to substitute those values into our formula. So we get the 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is equal to 2. And we're talking about feet squared. So there you go. That's what this equals. Okay. This whole thing equals 2 feet squared. So now we're just going to add up the areas. So we have area equals 20 plus 2, which is equal to 22 feet squared as our answer. Okay? So that's how you show your work for those types of problems. So now what I want you to do is go ahead and work out 4 and 5 on your own. Use this as a guide. Obviously over here you're going to have a circle and you're going to have a triangle, so they're going to be different formulas, but you're still going to set it up this same way, okay? So go ahead and pause, show your work. When you get done with 4 and 5, press play and we'll talk about your answers. All right, see you in a bit. All right, welcome. We are back. Let's go ahead and figure out what the answer is for problem 4. So the 2 shapes that I see for this particular example are, I see a rectangle and I see half of a circle. So we want to find the area of the whole entire thing. So let's go ahead and find the area of the rectangle first, okay? So that means we're going to be finding the area of a rectangle. So area equals length times width. Our length is going to be 6. We're going to define the variables. And our width is equal to 4. We substitute these values into our equation, and we get area equals 6 times 4. Oh, that's supposed to be a 4. 6 times 4. Okay, 6 times 4 is equal to 24, so it's going to be 24 meters squared. All right. And that's what this entire rectangle equals right here. This portion. Okay. Okay, so all of that ends up equaling 24 meters squared. Now we need to go ahead and figure out what that half circle is. So to figure out the area of this half circle, first what we need to do is find the area of the entire circle and then just divide it by 2. So area equals pi r squared. Our radius, so if you see here, from here to here, this whole distance is 4 meters. And so we need a radius, which is going to be half of that diameter, which is going to be half of 4, which is 2. So our radius is going to be 2, okay? We're going to substitute in 3.14 for pi. And then our radius is going to be 2 squared. So notice that when we have multiplication and exponents, order of operations states we have to do the exponents first. And so 2 squared is the same thing as 2 times 2, which is 4. So I'm going to substitute 4 in for 2 squared, and I get area is approximately 3.14 times 4. Now I'm just going to go ahead and do that math off to the side. So 3.14 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Write the 6, carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 4 times 3 is 12. And now we just need to determine where to put that decimal place, and there's 2 places here, which means we're going to have 2 in our answer. So we end up with 12.56 as our approximate area. And that would be the area of the entire circle, but we just need to know half of it. So that's why we need to go 12.56 and then divide that by 2. So 2 doesn't go into 1, but it does go into 12 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. And then we're going to carry the 5 down. 2 goes into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 take away 4 is 1. Drop the 6 down. 2 goes into 16 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16 with no remainder. Boom. There we have our answer. So that is for the half circle. Area is approximately 6.28. Okay? And that is the area of that portion, which is equal to this half here, right there. And I guess I should have showed my work and just said, hey, we're taking this 12.56 and dividing it by 2. Look at that little mini 2. It's so cute. Okay, but we're not done. We need to find the area, this is the yellow part, of the entire thing. So we're going to have to add these 2 things together. So area is going to be approximately, because I have this approximate value, to 24 plus 6.28. And I'm just going to take that up here. 24, 6.28. We're adding decimals. I got to put zeros there. I get 8. 0 plus 8 is 8. 0 plus 2 is 2. Put the decimal place. 4 plus 6 is 10. Write the 0, carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. So the approximate area of our composite figure here is 30.28 meters squared. So if you got that one right, great job. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to problem 5. So problem 5, the types of shapes that I'm seeing here, I see a rectangle and I also see a triangle. So let's go ahead and do the rectangle first. So area equals length times width. Okay, the length, we have to define our variables. The length is equal to 18 and the width is equal to 9. Okay, we're going to substitute those values in. We get 18 times 9. And then we're just going to go ahead and do that multiplication. 9 times 8 is 72. Write the 2, carry the 7. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 7 is 16. So that ends up being 162 feet squared. Okay, so that is the rectangle portion here, right here. Okay, I think I'm getting faster at my coloring. I don't know, maybe not. Okay, so this is 162 feet squared. 18 times 9. Yeah. Okay, now we need to find the, what do we need to find? We need to find the area of this triangle. Okay, so what I see is that the area of a triangle, the formula for that, area equals 1/2 base times height. Okay, so this would be the base. Right now we don't have a value for the base. So what I know is I know from here to here is 18. Okay, that whole distance is 18. It tells us how long this distance is, which is 6, and how long this distance is, which is 6. So if we add those two together, we get 12. So if we take 12 from 18, that will tell us what this distance is. So 18 minus 12, 8 take away 2 is 6. It ends up being 6. So this is 6 feet here. So that would be our base, and that's our height. So the base is 6 feet, and the height is 4. We substitute those values in, and we get the area equals 1/2 times 6 times 4. 1/2 times 6, 1/2 of 6 is 3. So that means area equals 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. So the area is equal to 12 feet squared. So that's the portion of the triangle. So this portion of the triangle, the area of this portion would be 12 feet squared. Okay, now if we want to find the area of the entire figure, we just need to add up those values. So we're going to say the area is equal to 162 plus 12. So if we take that off to the side, add them up, 2 plus 2 is 4, 6 plus 1 is 7, we drop down the 1, we get the area is equal to 174 feet squared. And there we have it. All right, let's go ahead and look at the back page. And we have some more shapes back here, 6, 7, and 8, and I want you to go ahead and try those on your own. So here's our friend the Pause Dragon, reminding you to pause your device, work out problems 6, 7, and 8, use all your work, write down all your formulas, define all your variables, show your work, show your work, show your work, and we will see you in just a little bit. Okay, when you get done, press play and we'll go over the answers. All right, we're back with problem 6. Let's go ahead and see how you did. So problem 6, there's a couple different ways we could do this problem. So we could divide it into a bunch of different shapes, right? Or we could, so you could divide it so this would be one shape here. There you'd have another rectangle there, and then you have another rectangle, so you have 3 different rectangles. Or you could divide it here where you have this really big long rectangle and then this small one here and this small one there. Or you could do the entire rectangle as one thing and then take away this small portion. So I think that that's the way I might do it. So I'm sure maybe you did 3 rectangles, or maybe you're talking about doing it the way I'm talking about, but I'm going to find the area of the entire rectangle here, and then I'm going to subtract it from this area here, because it's like a little indent. This portion is taken away from the big area. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay? And you should get the same answers. So if you did it a different way, we should get the same answers. It's just a different way of attacking the problem. So I'm going to start by finding the area of this entire rectangle. So I'm finding the area, just so we're clear, of this entire rectangle. And I know that this little indent portion is not included in there, but first I'm going to find the area of this entire rectangle. So the area of the entire rectangle would be area equals length times width. The length is going to be 12, and then the width is going to be 8. I'm going to substitute those values in. I get area equals 12 times 8. I'm not exactly sure what that is off the top of my head, so I'm going to go off to the side and do that math. 8 times 2 is 16. Write the 6, carry the 1. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So that should be 96. That would be 96 meters squared. Okay, and that's the portion of all of that yellow. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the portion of just this right here. Just this square or rectangle right there. So what I know is I know that this side is 3 because of that arrow. Okay, so that's 3. But I need to figure out what this is, or this portion right here. So if this whole thing is 12, right? And this is 6, and that's 2. And if you add those 6 and 2 together, you get 8. So if I take away 8 from 12, that gives me 4. That means that this portion right here is 4 meters. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and find the area of this orange square. So area equals length times width. The length is 4, and the width is 3. I substitute those values in, and I get 4 times 3, which is equal to 12 meters squared. Okay. And now to find my final answer, this one's slightly different than the other ones. We were adding on all the other ones. I'm going to take the big yellow, so to find my area, I'm taking 96, and I'm going to subtract. I'm going to take away this area of the orange, and what that will do is that will give me the remaining value of the yellow. So 96 minus 12 is going to give me 96 minus 12. 6 take away 2 is 4. 9 take away 1 is 8. So the actual value is going to be 84 meters squared. So there you go. That's what the yellow is, 84 meters squared. So if you did it a different way, you should get that same answer, 84 meters squared. And if you did, great job. Okay? Let's look at problem 7. So problem 7, what I see is I see that we have a rectangle again, and then we have a semicircle, so half of a circle. Okay? So we're just going to find the areas for each of those figures. Let's go ahead and find the area of the rectangle first. So the formula for the area of a rectangle is area equals length times width. The length is 18 and the width is 8. Okay, so I'm going to substitute those values in. Okay, 18 times 8, I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to figure out. 8 times 8 is 64, write the 4, carry the 6. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 6 is 14. So that ends up being 144 feet squared. Okay, so that is the area of the rectangle here. Okay. 144 feet squared. Now I need to find the area of the semicircle. Okay, so the area of the circle is going to be area equals pi r squared, and then if I want to, and then I just got to find half of it, so you're just going to divide it by 2. Okay, so the area of the circle divided by 2 is going to give us the area of that semicircle. So we need to figure out what the radius is. So here, we know from this end to this end is 18, okay? When we look at it, we have some numbers here. This tells us it's 6. This tells us it's 6. If you add 6 and 6 together, you get 12. So to figure out what this remaining amount is, we need to go 18 minus 12. And 18 minus 12 would give us 6. So that tells us that this whole thing is also 6 feet. But we don't want to know that. We want to know the radius, which would be half of 6, which would be 3 feet. So our radius is 3. So we're going to substitute that into this equation. We have area equals pi times 3 squared all over 2. Okay, so order of operations says that we have to do the exponents first. 3 squared is the same thing as 3 times 3, which is 9. Okay, and I'm going to say area is approximately, I'm using 3.14 times 9 all over 2. Okay, so I'm just going to do one thing at a time. I'm going to go ahead and figure out what 9 times 3.14 is. So over here on the side, 3.14 times 9. 9 times 4 is 36. Write the 6, carry the 3. 9 times 1 is 9 plus 3 would be 12. Write the 2, carry the 1. 9 times 3 is 27 plus 1 is 28. We need to figure out where to put that decimal. And there's 2 decimal places there. So we end up with 28.26. Area is approximately 28.26, and then we need to divide that by 2. So 28.26 divided by 2. 2 goes into 2 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. We drop that 8 like it's hot. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 take away 8 is 0. Then we drop that 2 down. Put the decimal there. 2 goes into 2 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. 0. Drop down the 6. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6 with no remainder, so we know that we're done. So that means the area for this half circle is approximately 14.13 feet squared. Okay, so that would be this portion right here. So if we want to find the area of the entire figure, oh, this was 144. And this is equal to 14.13 feet squared. We're going to have to add these two numbers together. So we're going to say that the area is equal to 144 plus 14.13. And I'm running out of room a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and do that right here. 144, 14.13. I'm adding decimals. I got to line up the decimals and add zeros. 0 plus 3 is 3. 0 plus 1 is 1. Decimal drops down. 4 plus 4 is 8. 4 plus 1 is 5. 1. And so there we have it. Our area is 158.13 feet squared. So if you got that one right, great job. Okay, let's go on to problem 8. Okay, I think it's pretty clear that we have, this looks like a square, 16 and 16, so that's going to be a square. We have a square and we have a triangle here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just go ahead and find the area of the square. So it's going to be area equals length times width. The length is 16. The width is 16. Define our variables, substitute them in. Area equals 16 times 16. I'm not exactly sure what that is off the top of my head, so I'm going to do it over here. 16 times 16. 6 times 6 is 36. Write the 6, carry the 3. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 3 is 9. I'm going to add a 0. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. 6 plus 0 is 6. 9 plus 6 is 15. Write the 5, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So we end up with 256 meters squared. That is the area of the square. Right here. Ooh, I am impressed with the speed of highlighting of the square. Okay, so 256 meters squared. Perfect. Let's go ahead and find the area of this triangle. So the area of the triangle is going to be area equals 1/2 base times height. Okay, I'm going to say the base right here, we'll call it 8. So B equals 8, but we need to find the height, which would be right here. So what we know is we know from here to here is 16. We also know from here to here is 8. So if we go 16 take away 8, that's going to let us know what this is. 16 take away 8 is 8. That means this portion is 8 meters. So the height is 8. We substitute these values in. Area equals 1/2 times 8 times 8. 1/2 of 8, or half of 8, would be 4. So we know that we're dealing with 4 times 8. 4 times 8 is 32. 32 meters squared. Okay, so that would be this portion right here. That portion is 32 meters squared. So now we just need to find the area of the whole thing, which means we're going to go 256 plus 32. And I'm going to do that off to the side. 256 plus 32. 6 plus 2 is 8. 5 plus 3 is 8, and 2. Area equals 288 meters squared. So if you got that right, awesome job. Okay, let's move on to the last problem. This states the figure shows the dimension of a room. How much carpet is needed to cover the floor? So whenever you're talking about covering an entire figure with carpet or tiles or anything like that, you're talking about the area. So we need to find the area of this composite shape. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and pause, figure this out. When you get done, press play, and we'll talk about your answers. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, we're back. What I see is we have a rectangle and a half a circle. So let's go ahead and find the area of the rectangle first. So area equals length times width. The length, let's call it 10. And the width, let's call it 15. So we have 15 times 10. Whenever you're adding, or not adding, but multiplying something by 10, you can just put a 0 on the end of it. So 15 times 10 is the same thing as 150 feet squared. So that portion would be right here. This is 150. I'm going to go really, really super fast. Let's see how that worked. Okay. All right, not bad, not bad. Okay. So that whole portion is 150 feet squared. 150 feet squared. Perfect. Now we have to find the half circle. So that is going to be the area of the circle, pi r squared, but we're only going to use half of it, so it's going to be divided by 2. Now the radius, we need to determine what the radius is. Well, we know this whole side length is 10, which means this whole side length is 10, which is referring to the diameter of this circle. The diameter of the circle is equal to 10 feet. But we just want the radius, which is going to be half of that, which is going to be 5 feet. So that's what our radius is. Our radius is equal to 5. So we're going to substitute that value in. We get area equals pi times 5 squared divided by 2. We have to do the order of operations, which would mean we have to do the exponents first. We know that 5 squared is the same thing as 5 times 5, which is 25. So we're going to substitute 25 in for 5 squared. And we end up with approximately, I'm going to put that in terms of, I'm going to put 3.14 in, times 25 divided by 2. Okay, let's go ahead and just do this math. So 3.14 times 25. 5 times 4 is 20. Write the 0, carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 would be 7. 5 times 3 is 15. Now I'm moving to the tens place, so I'm going to put a 0 in the ones. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. So I'm adding all of these values together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 8 is 15. Write the 5, carry the 1. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 would be 8, and 6 plus 1 is 7. Now I'm going to determine where to put that decimal place. To do that, I'm going to figure out how many decimal places there are in the original problem, and there's 1, 2. That means in my answer there needs to be 2 decimal places as well. So I end up putting the decimal right there, 78.5. So the approximate area is 78.5 divided by 2. So now I just need to divide this by 2, so I'm going to go over here and do that long division. 78.5 divided by 2. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. Take away 7, take away 6 is 1. And then I'm going to drop this 8 down. 2 goes into 18 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. I subtract, there's no remainder, but I still need to drop that 5 down. Put the decimal there. 2 goes into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 take away 4 is 1, and then I need to drop a 0 down because I still have a remainder, which makes it 10. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10 without a remainder, so we know that we're done. So that means the area of the half circle is going to be 39.25 feet squared. Okay, so that would be this portion right here, this half circle. So all of this right here is equal to 39.25 feet squared. So to determine the area of everything, we just need to go ahead and add those two things together. So we're going to go area equals 150 plus 39.25. To figure this out, I'm just going to go over here. 150.00, 39. Whenever you're adding decimals, you have to line up the decimal places. 0 plus 5 is 5, 0 plus 2 is 2, 0 plus 9 is 9, 5 plus 3 is 8, and we drop down the 1. So the answer ends up being 189.25 feet squared. So if you got that answer right, you did a great job, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.